What is up, fight fans? Welcome back to Picking a Fight. I'm Latch, and today we're going to be looking at UFC Fight Night Pavlovich versus Blaydes. We're going to be looking at some of the fights on the main card. But before we get started, don't forget to like this video, subscribe if you haven't, and yeah, let's jump right into it. So we got the number 3 ranked heavyweight Sergei Pavlovich. He's 17-1. He's 30 years old. He's 6'3" with an 84-inch reach, and he's currently on a 5-fight winning streak with his last two over Bam Bam Tuivasa and Derek Lewis. And he is going up against the number 4 ranked heavyweight Curtis Razor Blaydes. And he's going up against the number 4 ranked heavyweight Curtis Razor Blaydes. He's 17-3. He's 32 years old. He's 6'4" with an 80-inch reach. And he's currently on a 3-fight win streak with wins over Tom Aspinall, Chris Daukaus, and Jairzinho Rozenstruik. So heavyweights clash in the main event. Two very different styles are coming together. And you know, Curtis Blaydes is coming off a very unsatisfying result over Tom Aspinall. He did win, but it was due to a knee injury that Tom Aspinall sustained very early into the fight. But before that, he showed off his striking against Chris Daukaus, knocking him out in the second round. And you know, he's been improving his striking a lot. His jab is now a reliable weapon for him, and it really does help him set up the takedowns. Although he is primarily a wrestler, he has shown that he does have power in his hands when he decides to strike. After showing off his striking in his last two fights, I think he's going to go back to the wrestling in this one. You know, he faces a very powerful striker in Sergei Pavlovich. You know, ever since losing his UFC debut to Alistair Overeem, Sergei Pavlovich has been on an absolute roll, man. He has won 5 in a row, finishing all 5 in the very first round. But I think it's his last two fights against Tai Tuivasa and Derek Lewis that has shot him into the limelight. You know, Sergei Pavlovich is a big puncher, and his right hand is the nuclear option. You know, when he was forced to brawl against Ty and against Derek Lewis, he did not cower away. You know, he stood in the pocket and brawled with these guys, and he was able to land the cleaner shots with better technique. I think in this fight, Sergei really has to find his shot early because Curtis Blaydes is going to test his takedown defense. You know, in Sergei Pavlovich's UFC debut, he faced Alistair Overeem, and Overeem was able to take him down pretty easily and finish him by ground and pound. And man, Pavlovich's takedown defense looked horrendous. You know, he seemed pretty lost on the ground. You know, Alistair Overeem, he made it look easy when it came to the wrestling, and he's not even as good as Curtis Blaydes when it comes to the wrestling. Obviously, that was 5 years ago, and hopefully Sergei Pavlovich has improved his wrestling, but you know, these heavyweights, they tend not to grapple a lot. So it's hard to imagine someone catching up in the wrestling department, especially at heavyweight. But on Saturday night, we're going to see exactly where it's at, because Curtis Blaydes will be coming for the takedowns. I don't think he wants to stand and strike. I think he can take Pavlovich down and finish it by ground and pound. So I'm going to have to go by Curtis Blaydes by TKO. I think he's just too big, too strong. And when he gets Pavlovich on the ground, even if Sergei has improved how to get back up or stop the takedowns, I think Curtis Blaydes is just going to be way too persistent. And I think when he gets him down, he's going to be strong enough to hold him there. And I think he's going to put some damage on him. So I'm going to go Curtis Blaydes by TKO. You know, there is a lot at stake here. Curtis Blaydes has said that he wants a title shot next. He's been asking it for a long time, but the title shot continues to evade him. And with Curtis Blaydes being the only heavyweight with pretty good wrestling, you know, that's a really interesting matchup. But Curtis Blaydes has to win this in spectacular fashion because his fights against Jairzinho Rozenstruik and Alexander Volkov were not the most exciting or fan-friendly type of fights. But he has been picking it up with his win over Chris Daukaus. But with the big finish here, he can kind of put his name in the hat. But yeah, let me know down below what you think. Do you think I'm underestimating Sergei Pavlovich? Do you think his takedown defense has improved a ton in those 5 years? Or do you think Curtis Blaydes is going to be able to have his way with him? Let me know down below what you think. And yeah, let's go to the co-main event. So the original co-main event for this fight was supposed to be Song Yadong versus Ricky Simon, but that fight has been scheduled as the main event for next week. So now the co-main event is Bobby King Green versus Jared Flash Gordon. And Bobby Green, he's 29-14 with 1 draw. He's 36 years old. He's 5'10" with a 71-inch reach. You know, he's currently on a 2-fight losing skid against Drew Dober and Islam Makhachev. And he's going up against Jared Flash Gordon. He's 19-6. He's 34 years old. He's 5'9" with a 68-inch reach. And he's coming off a decision loss to Paddy Pimblett. You know, after a very close decision against Paddy Pimblett, Jared Gordon comes back to fight a veteran in Bobby Green. You know, Jared Gordon fared much better than anyone expected he would against Paddy Pimblett. I think Jared Gordon showed that his hands are still pretty good and still pretty dangerous. You know, his left hook was landing flush every time. You know, in this fight, he will be going against a very experienced and very unorthodox fighter in Bobby Green. So I don't think striking will be his best option. You know, Jared Gordon does train with Bilal, so I think the wrestling is going to be in the plans for this fight. You know, a question that will be answered is if Jared Gordon's wrestling is good enough to take down someone like Bobby Green. Obviously, Bobby Green got dominated by Islam, but Islam is a different beast when it comes to wrestling. And Bobby Green does have a 72% takedown defense in the UFC. And, you know, he's been in there a long time against a lot of type of fighters. So 72% is actually pretty solid. And he has been pretty difficult to take down. You know, he does manage to get himself back up. He's not the easiest guy to take down, but it's also not impossible. You know, he did get knocked out in his last fight against Drew Dober, but Bobby Green was doing so well up to that point. He was landing the much more damaging shots. I'm not sure if Jared Gordon has the power that Drew Dober has, but I think the one thing he should take from his game plan is the pressure that he was applying. Drew Dober was just straight up walking through the shots of Bobby Green in order to get his, because he knew he had the power advantage there. I think Jared Gordon's old school striking style really lends itself to get picked apart by an unorthodox style like Bobby Green, one that uses range and length. And I'm not exactly sure if Jared Gordon can land meaningful takedowns. So that being said, I'm going to go Bobby Green by TKO. I think he's just going to be able to stop the takedowns, and I think he's going to land his shots from the outside. Jared Gordon has been finished before, but he proved his durability in the last fight against a big hitter in Patty. You know, I think Bobby Green's striking style is just so unique and so different that I think he's going to catch him off guard. But I wouldn't be surprised if Bobby Green wins this decision. I can kind of see Jared Gordon grinding him out on the cage or even taking him down and kind of holding him there. But yeah, I got Bobby Green by knockout or TKO. But let me know down below what you think. Do you think I'm underestimating Jared Gordon? Do you think he's going to be able to get that takedown and hold Bobby Green up to the cage or on the ground? Let me know down below what you think. I'm always interested to hear. And let's go on to the next fight. So in the next fight up, we possibly got the fight of the night. We got Brad Tavares taking on Bruno Silva. So Brad Tavares, he's 19-7. He's 35 years old. He's 6'1" with a 74-inch reach. And he's coming off a decision loss to Dricus du Plessis. And he is going up against Bruno Blindado Silva. He's 22-8. He's 33 years old. He's 6 foot tall with a 74-inch reach. And he's currently on a 2-fight losing streak, with his last two being a submission loss to GM3. And before that, decision loss to Alex Pereira. And yeah, Bruno Silva is a very exciting southpaw striker. He's got crazy power. He got 19 wins by knockout. And this matchup, especially if they stay standing, has the potential to be fight of the night. No, and it's been kind of rough for him in his last two. You know, he was matched up with a very tricky grappler in GM3. And before that, he was fed to Alex Pereira. But man, this guy is still always dangerous with the hands. You know, he isn't the most technical, but he does a great job of closing that distance and landing his big left hand. You know, his guard does a good job of blocking a lot of the shots, and he's definitely at his best when he's the one pushing the pace. And I think he's really going to have to against a veteran like Tavares. And although he's only 2 years older than Bruno Silva, he's had over 20 fights in the UFC already and against some of the best guys at middleweight. And Brad Tavares, you know, he's a very tough striker. He can mix it up very well. I do think he is the better wrestler, but not by much. Both guys really only shoot when they need to. I think it would serve Tavares well to shoot early to kind of keep Bruno Silva on his toes and make him hesitant, kind of like GM3 did, because those early takedowns and that threat of the takedown really stalled Bruno Silva's offense. I think out of the both of them, I think Brad Tavares is a little more well-rounded, but I do think Bruno Silva has an advantage when it comes to the power and the striking. So this is going to be a banger regardless, but because he's a little more well-rounded, I'm going to have to go Brad Tavares by decision. I just think if he gets in danger, he's going to shoot for the takedown and he's going to be successful with it. I think he's very tough, very durable. He's took some big shots, but he can always land some of his own, you know. But I expect this fight to be fireworks. Bruno Silva has the power to end this at any moment. You know, it'd be sad to see Brad Tavares lose in that fashion, but anything is possible in this game. But let me know down below what you think. Do you think I'm underestimating Bruno Silva's power? Do you think I'm overestimating Brad Tavares? Let me know down below. I'm always interested to hear what you think. And yeah, that's UFC Fight Night Pavlovich versus Blaydes. A lot of shuffling happened, but still a pretty solid card. Yeah, it's going to be a great night of fights. Do not forget to tune in. I'll see you next week for UFC Fight Night Yadong versus Simone. But until then, take care.